Hello. My name is Anonymous 2. Today I will tell you the story of a mighty silverback gorilla who protected his family from a vicious pack of hungry wolves. This is the story of the gorilla and the wolves, a battle for survival, deep in the heart of the jungle where the tall trees formed a leafy ceiling that blocked out the sun and the ground was covered in thick vegetation. There lived a huge and powerful silverback gorilla named Kano. Kano was the leader of his troop. A troop that consisted of around 30 gorillas. Kano's troop occupied the southern part of this lush and dense forest, a place teeming with life and resources, which made it an ideal habitat for many animals. However, the peace and tranquility of the jungle was shattered one day, when a pack of hungry wolves arrived in the territory of Kono's troop. The wolves had been driven out of their homes by a group of hunters who had encroached upon their territory, led by their fearless alpha male named Ragnar. The wolves were in search of a new home where they could find plenty of food and raise their pups. Their eyes fell upon the territory of Kano's troop, which seemed to be rich in food and resources. One evening, while Kano and his troop were peacefully enjoying their dinner, the wolves made their presence known by howling at the edge of the forest. Kano, being the courageous and protective leader that he was, stood up on his hind legs and let out a loud roar that echoed through the trees. This was a warning to the wolves that they were not welcome in his territory. But Ragnar, being the cunning leader that he was, chose to ignore Kano's warning and decided to test the strength of the gorillas. That night, the wolves attacked the sleeping gorillas. They pounced on their prey, biting and scratching them with their sharp teeth and claws. The gorillas, taken by surprise, were caught off guard. Kano, along with the other adult males, quickly jumped into action. They fought back fiercely, protecting the females and the young ones. The battle was intense, and neither side was willing to back down. The wolves, being agile and quick, were able to dodge the powerful blows of the gorillas. And even though they were outnumbered, they managed to hold their ground. The fight continued. The numbers of both the wolves and the gorillas started to dwindle. Many of them sustained serious injuries and were unable to continue fighting. Kano, who was badly mauled and bleeding profusely from a deep wound on his shoulder, knew that he had to do something to turn the tide of the battle in their favor. So he let out a loud war cry and charged at the wolves, swinging his heavy fists and feet. His powerful kicks sent some of the wolves flying through the air, while his sharp elbows connected with the faces of others, sending them crashing to the ground. Sight of their leader's bravery and strength gave the remaining gorillas a boost, and they fought back with renewed vigor. On the other side, Ragnar, who had sustained a deep gash on his left side, struggled to keep himself and his remaining pack members alive. Despite being outnumbered, he refused to give up. He knew that if they could just hold out for a little longer, they would have the strength to flee and live to fight another day. But as time passed, it became clear that they were no match for the gorillas. As the first rays of sunlight began to peek through the thick canopy, Ragnar knew that it was time to retreat. With a final howl, he signaled his pack to turn and run. The remaining wolves, wounded and exhausted, fled into the forest, disappearing into the thick undergrowth. Kano, despite being injured himself, led the chase, hoping to finish off the wounded wolves and protect his troop. However, he knew that it was too risky to go far from his territory, so he and his men returned after a while. Coast was clear. He returned to his troop, who had gathered around him anxiously, waiting for his return. Kano, despite being badly injured, tried to appear strong in front of his troop, knowing that they were looking to him for leadership and protection. He limped towards a nearby stream and drank some water, trying to quench his thirst. The other gorillas followed suit, drinking their fill before returning to their daily activities. But while the battle had ended in a victory for the gorillas, it had taken a toll on them. Many of them were injured, and the loss of their companions weighed heavily on their hearts. Kano, being the caring leader that he was, made sure that the females and the young ones were safe and well looked after. He knew that they were the future of the troop, and it was his responsibility to ensure their safety and well-being. As days turned into weeks, the wounds of the gorillas began to heal and the memory of their fallen companions began to fade. Life in the jungle gradually returned to normal. Sun rose and set. The birds sang their melodious songs, and the gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees. But the victory had come at a price. The battle had left the troop weakened and vulnerable, and Kano knew that they needed to be prepared for the next attack, which he knew was inevitable. He called for a meeting of all the adult males and started to plan their defense. He knew that the wolves would be back and he wanted to be ready for them. They built barricades out of branches and vines, which they placed at strategic locations around their camp. These barricades were designed to slow down the wolves and give the gorillas a chance to defend themselves. At the same time, Kano also organized patrols to keep watch over the surrounding areas. Patrols consisted of pairs of gorillas who would take turns to stay awake and alert for any sign of danger. If they spotted any wolves, they would sound an alarm and the rest of the troop would be prepared to defend themselves. Kano also took it upon himself to teach the young and inexperienced members of the troop how to fight. He knew that the next battle would be even fiercer than the last, and he wanted everyone to be prepared. He showed them how to throw powerful punches and how to kick with full force. He also taught them how to use their teeth and claws effectively in a fight. Despite all their efforts, there was a part of Kano that hoped that the wolves would not return. He knew that another battle would result in more injuries and deaths, and he wished for peace to reign in the jungle once again. However, he was prepared to do whatever it took to protect his troop and their way of life. He was their leader, and it was his duty to keep them safe. And then one day, the wolves came. As expected, they came back stronger and more determined than before. They had brought with them reinforcements, and their numbers now exceeded that of the gorillas. The battle that ensued was fierce and bloody. The wolves attacked in packs, taking on several gorillas at once. Gorillas, though, were prepared and fought back valiantly. They used their barricades to their advantage, launching surprise attacks on the wolves. As the battle raged on, casualties on both sides began to mount. The gorillas, though outnumbered, were able to hold their ground thanks to their size and strength. But as the sun began to set, they started to become weaker. Fatigue was starting to take its toll on them, and they were starting to lose the will to fight. It was at this moment that Kano knew that he had to do something to boost the morale of his troops. With a loud and powerful roar, he charged into the thick of the battle, taking on several wolves at once. His powerful fists connected with wolfish snouts, sending them crashing to the ground. Sharp elbows found their marks on wolfish ribs, making them yelp in pain. Seeing their leader's bravery and strength gave the remaining gorillas a surge of adrenaline. They fought with renewed vigor, pushing back the wolves and creating some space for themselves. As the last rays of sunlight faded away, the wolves, realizing that they had lost the upper hand, retreated into the darkness, disappearing into the thick undergrowth. Gorillas, though battered and bruised, had won the battle. They had managed to defend their territory and protect their way of life. But the victory was a Pyrrhic one. Many of them had been injured, and the death of their companions weighed heavily on their hearts. Kano, despite his own injuries, made sure that the females and the young ones were safe and well looked after. He knew that they were the future of the troop, and it was his responsibility to ensure their safety and well-being. And as the jungle slowly woke up to the sound of birds chirping and the rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, the gorillas knew that they had survived yet another battle. They had defended their home and their loved ones. And even though the scars of the battle would remain, their courage and resilience would be a source of inspiration for generations to come. And that is the story of the gorilla and the wolves. A battle for survival. If you like the story, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing animal stories. Thank you for watching.